Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The Federal Republic of Nigeria celebrates 2024 Democracy Day amid economic hardship.
As a president of this nation, I am morally and constitutionally bound to preserve this precious form of governance.
Several civil society organizations in Guinea are calling for the release of dignitaries of the former regime held without trial. Ghana risks zero funding from Global Fund over non-clearance of 100 plots medical containers at the Tema port.
We are highly disappointed. We are in the second week of June and the remaining containers are still at the ports. Despite all the hula baloo, despite all the furore, nothing much has changed.
And the Senegalese government welcomes 50 Chinese investors seeking to explore the country's energy sector. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. This edition begins in the Federal Republic of Nigeria as the country today celebrates 2024 Democracy Day despite variety of issues affecting the citizens. On June 12, 1993, exactly 31 years ago, some 40 million Nigerians went to the polls to elect a new president to end a decade of military dictatorship. Delivering his Democracy Day speech, President Bola Tinubu pledged to implement democracy as Nigerians' way of life. The Nigerian president also hailed the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. While he acknowledged the economic hardships in the country and expressed his commitment to supporting the citizens, Tinubu urged Nigerians to beware of elements who might want to undermine the current democratic dispensation.
As Nigerians, we must remind ourselves that no matter how complicated democracy may be, it is the best form of governance in the long run. We must also be aware that there are those among us who will try to exploit current challenges to undermine, if not destroy, this democracy for which so much has already been given. This is the great battle of our day and the major reason we specially celebrate this day as Democracy Day. The true meaning of the day is not to focus solely on the great deeds of the past that have brought us to this point. Yes, we pay eternal honor to those who laid down their lives, sacrificing everything to pave the way for the nation. I stand uniquely placed in this regard, and I was among those who took the risk to midwife the birth of our democracy. I am now a direct and obvious beneficiary of the fruit of those historic efforts. As a president of this nation, I am morally and constitutionally bound to preserve this precious form of governance.
Meanwhile, this year's event has met mixed reactions among the population based on the current socio-economic and political challenges. Some citizens believe the country's democracy is challenged by the absence of proactive measures needed to address the current challenges. Adeniyi Kunu, a public affairs analyst, is one of those calling for better leadership of Nigeria.
If we give consideration to the many challenges of the country, I'll say that there are lots of what I call a catalog of misfortunes occasioned by the insensitivity and the lack of idea and the gross incapacity of the people in power. The way Nigeria is run, Nigeria is simply run as what belongs to a few people. So if you also look at it, let me put it on record. When he took office and he gave his inaugural address to the citizens on May 29, he violated a laid down rule regarding the removal of fuel subsidy. Fuel subsidy was supposed to be removed end of June, about June 29th or June 30th of last year. He came and on May 29, he said fuel subsidy was removed by fiat, and it turned the country into economic chaos. If you also look at it, at the same time, there were certain things he should not have done regarding the naira to the dollar. A country that is import dependent could not just go ahead and start doing certain things. He also violated that. So I'm saying that he landed on the platform and he made too many errors. And that is actually what I'm saying now, that when you find yourself into an office and you have the privilege of leadership, you give consideration first to the majority of people who give you their votes. That is number one. You look at the errors of your predecessor. That is two. You call in a team of capable hands who really are selfless. That is three. And you draw up a plan for recovery to get the country better. That is four. If you have this quadruped, that is the strategy, you would have a better leadership.
Adeniyi Kunu is a public affairs analyst in Nigeria. Let's take you to Guinea, where civil society organizations are calling for the release of former dignitaries of the Alpha Conde regime who are under judicial supervision. These organizations denounce the instrumentalization of the court of repression of economic and financial offenses by the ruling military. They also demand a thorough reform of this court, which they claimed only prosecutes socio-political actors opposed to the current transitional government. As Francis Boniface reports, some of these former officials have been imprisoned without trial since 2022.
These citizens' organizations, united under a platform called the House of Guinean Associations and NGOs, said they have spent 7 months examining the legal proceedings initiated against ministers, deputies, and directors under the regime of former President Alpha Conde. According to Alpha Bao, a spokesperson for the platform, the legal procedures that led to their incarceration were not respected. These civil society organizations are therefore calling for their release under judicial supervision, pending the resumption of their trial. Regarding the functioning of the courts for the repression of economic crimes, the courts in charge of their cases, the platform calls for its reform. The court's activities have been at a standstill for over a month. Most of the magistrates sitting there have been suspended by the Minister of Justice for professional incompetence.
Francis Boniface reporting there. The Senegalese government has welcomed a high-power Chinese delegation seeking to examine investment opportunities in various sectors, but energy in particular. More than 50 entrepreneurs are on the theme. The arrival in Dakar, the capital, is at a time when the country joins the rank of oil-producing states in Africa and the world at large. Rose Samara Kate tells us more. The Chinese delegation comprises some 50 entrepreneurs and industrialists who are members of the China and Africa Chamber of Commerce. On Tuesday, they held talks with Senegalese private companies at a round table organized by the Senegalese Agency for the Promotion of Investments and Major Works, APEX. The head of the China and Africa Chamber of Commerce indicated that his delegation wished to explore the energy sector in Senegal, a fast-growing sector. The managing director of APEX looked forward to future partnerships, pointing out that for several years now, Chinese companies have been cooperating with Senegalese companies in various sectors. Investment for the year 2023 alone was worth 665 billion CFA francs. Senegal wants to rely on its private sector to move towards an indigenization of its economy. Dakar says it wants to forge win-win partnerships with China. The country would like to see investment in so-called productive areas to address the issue of youth unemployment. Technology transfer should also remain an important aspect of this cooperation. Site visits and business meetings are scheduled during this Chinese mission to Dakar.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We now move to the Sahel, where the Beninese government has imposed a 6-month temporary ban on the export of grains and tubers to neighboring countries. In a decree adopted by the Council Minister, Cotonou intends to promote the country's full self-sufficiency. The decree was endorsed by the Ministers of Industry and Commerce, Economy and Finance, as well as Agriculture. Though in this period, according to the decree, the export of carriers outside the national territory is formally prohibited, and violators of this new restrictive measure will be sanctioned. These include the seizure and auction of said products if illegally exported. No country was specifically, but it should be recalled that Benin and Niger have 4 months witnessed a growing diplomatic rift which stemmed from Niamey's refusal to open its land borders. Meanwhile, the crisis between Benin and Niger has blocked the second shipment of oil from the Sameh project platform. After a successful first loading, the pipeline is now at a standstill. The Alandra Eagle ship docked at Samay since May 31, but has not received a drop of the 146,000 tons of crude oil it arrived to load. This latest news comes a few days ago after reports of a definitive lifting of the blockade on the loading of Nigerian oil made the rounds. However, the reality could be different, as the incident of the arrest of 4 Nigerian citizens on the loading platform did not help the matter. Despite the situation, a third ship, known as the Suez Front, is expected in Benin's waters to load 1 million barrels of crude oil. This current condition presents an embarrassing situation for the Chinese company WAPCO, trapped by the diplomatic crisis between Benin and Niger. The Global Fund has issued a financial warning to stop providing any form of funding to Ghana by the end of June this year if the country fails to clear over 120 containers of essential drugs that have been stuck at the Tema port since May 2023. This comes after the government failed on its promise to clear all remaining 182 containers by 17th April 2024, following threats by the Global Fund. Meanwhile, members of the coalition of CSOs in HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria say they will also be picketing on the 25th of June in protest of the government's delay in clearing the containers. WADR's Nadia Titi reports.
In April this year, following a threat by the Global Fund to suspend the shipment of crucial medical supplies to Ghana due to delays in clearing previous donations stuck at the Tema port, the Ghana Revenue Authority GRA handed over 14 out of the 182 containers of locked-up pharmaceutical products needed for the fight against HIV/AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis to the Ministry of Health. However, nearly 2 months after the government assured it would ensure the clearance of all the containers, it has only managed to clear about 60 out of the 168 remaining containers. Ernest Osin, acting chair and country coordinator mechanism of the Global Fund, expressed frustration and disappointment over the development.
We're in the second week of June and the remaining containers are still at the port. So it looks like despite all the hula baloo, despite all the furore, nothing much has changed. The situation remains just as it was in April, just as it was 1 year ago. We are highly disappointed.
Meanwhile, there are fears of an imminent outbreak of tuberculosis as hospitals ration TB medication following a shortage in supply since May. Here is Executive Secretary of the Country Coordinating Mechanism for the Global Fund, Samuel Hackman.
It's been rationed for some weeks and months now. Let's say 2 months beginning May. This rationing has been ongoing. Again, we want to appeal to the president, whoever can intervene for this to happen, because Ghana is unable to procure TB drugs directly because of the conditionalities that you need to make upfront payment, and our procurement laws does not allow for upfront payment.
For WADR, Nadia Titi, Accra.
At least 3,000 United States dollars worth of narcotic drugs have been discovered in the intestine of a 37-year-old man while undergoing surgery at the government's largest referral health facility in Monrovia. The suspect, who is said to be a notorious drug trafficker, was taken to the John F. Kennedy Medical Center after complaining about intensive pains around his stomach. WADR's Darlington Porkpad in Monrovia reports.
The hospitalized 37-year-old drug trafficker, whose name and identity were withheld, had reportedly swallowed several pieces of narcotic substance after being tailed by drug enforcement officers in Nimba County, one of Liberia's 15 counties. The country's chief sergeant, Dr. Peter Coleman, revealed that the patient was taken to the hospital after experiencing severe pain from his inability to excrete for several days. There is no mention of the particular drug concealed in the trafficker system.
When we examined him, we felt that, yes, indeed, he had something in his stomach, but the fact that he was complaining of very severe pain at the rectum. So one of our junior doctors went to examine the rectum, and the smaller package there was taking out the rectum. And because of the images we saw on the ultrasound, compelled us to think that there were other packages in there.
Impressed by the development, the regional commander of the Drug Enforcement Agency in Mosrado County, Clarence Clark, commended the medical doctors for assisting in the fight against illicit drugs. He proceeded by calling on all Liberians to rally behind the government to make the country drug-free. The Drug Enforcement Agency says it would continue to arrest and forward drug dealers to court for prosecution. Liberia is battling a drug addiction crisis, especially among its youthful population, which has helped the government beef up security and re-strategize its campaign against drug trafficking, including enacting a non-bailable order for drug-related offenses. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The Federal Republic of Nigeria celebrates 2024 Democracy Day amid economic hardship. Several civil society organizations in Guinea are calling for the release of dignitaries of the former regime held without trial. Senegalese government welcomes 50 Chinese investors seeking to explore the country's energy sector. Still ahead, sub-regional bloc ECOWAS launches cross-border support program in Cabo Verde. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports update. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We are also streaming live on Facebook at WADR English Service and YouTube at WADR. Cabo Verde, Liberia, and Sierra Leone are expected to benefit from the National Platform for ECOWAS Cross-Border Cooperation Support Program 2023 to 2027. Officially launched on Monday in Praia. This is the last phase of the program, which began in 2006. It aims to enhance cooperation among member states and improve the lives of citizens in border areas. Eche Atisu has the rest of the details.
Speaking at the launch of the program, Albert Sian-Boatin, representing the ECOWAS Commissioner for Economic Affairs and Agriculture, highlighted the inclusivity of the program, emphasizing that it is for all member states. He said as part of the current project, Cabo Verde, Liberia, and Sierra Leone will receive a grant of $100,000 each to implement concrete projects that impact the lives of community citizens in line with the new ECOWAS vision of the people. For her part, Dr. Isa Moret, the coordinator of the ECOWAS National Unit, described the launch as a significant milestone towards greater regional integration and cooperation in West Africa. She highlighted the importance of the program for small island developing states like Cabo Verde, stressing its role in promoting regional peace, stability, and prosperity. The National Platform for ECOWAS Cross-Border Cooperation (CBC) support program started with 9 member states, namely Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, and Togo. Throughout the program, each of these 9 countries received $100,000 to implement projects they had identified. However, the launch event brought together key stakeholders from various sectors, including immigration, family and social development, finance, and civil society organizations.
Eche Atisu reporting there.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's now join Sankule Janko in the Gambian capital Banjul for the newspaper review.
Hello there and welcome to this edition of the Press Review. And let's begin today's Press Review with the Fourier newspaper. And the lead story on the Fourier newspaper reads, Police Command meet Brikama Area Council amid Operation Cleared Roads. Saga recalled just a couple of days. Market vendors in Brikama and National Road Authority officials had a confrontation, and then police had to intervene and use tear gas to calm the situation. And according to this report, the police command decided to meet the authorities of Brikama Area Council, who actually give the authorization to these vendors to use the said roads. Government fertilizer price pegged at $1,100 this year. That's equivalent to about $20. Agri Department receives 250 metric tons of rice, maize seeds for farmers. This other one read, military ballistic expert testifies in plea-suiting trial. National Assembly to consider criminal offence bill orders. That is according to this report, as sittings are expected to resume later this month. Now, let's move on to the Point newspaper. And the lead story on the Point newspaper talks about Gambia's neighboring country, and that is Senegal. And it reads, Senegal joins circle of oil-producing countries, with a huge photo of what looks like a refinery plan with the Senegalese flag attached. And this other one reads, Israel aimed to sway ex-ICC prosecutor revealed. That is the Gambian national Fatou Bensouda. This report claims Israel aims to sway the Gambian who served as the prosecutor of International Criminal Court for many years. 29 young entrepreneurs benefit from government 1.4 million grant. This other one reads, Gambia Global Fund launches 40.9 million US grant. That's according to this report. This other one reads, $25 million MCC intervention to reduce inadequate electricity supply. Justice Jaite overrules defense application on ammunition report. Now, let's move on to the final newspaper for today, and that is the Standard newspaper. The lead story on the Standard newspaper reads, GCCA denies licensing Nero Toponis GIA. GCCA is the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority, and according to this lead story on the Standard newspaper, they deny licensing Nero in order to punish the Gambia International Airlines, that is GIA. Fati advises back to utilize courts, avoid confrontation, and he has urged the Brikama Area Council to avoid confrontation with authorities and instead utilize the courts. According to the Standard newspaper, these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies, and it's back to you in the studio.
Sankule Janko there with the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This segment of the news takes us back to the story about the arrival of a high-power Chinese delegation in Senegal seeking to examine investment opportunities in various sectors, but energy in particular. The Senegalese government welcomed the delegation on Tuesday and began discussions in the interested areas. However, the WADR engaged the expertise of Alhaji Amadou Sam, the country director of budget, an NGO, regarding the impacts of the investment on Senegal's economy.
This is very important date because the date is memorable because yesterday was the first barrel of Senegal in terms of oil and gas because the production has officially started yesterday. I think they have chosen their day to come here. And this was a delegate of entrepreneurs and business people because we have to understand that Senegal was mainly working with French people and French government. We had others partnership with China, but in 2023, the partnership between Chinese, when we would like to weight it in terms of amount, it doesn't go beyond $700 billion. So I think that this is a new era that is open between Senegal and China regarding the fact that the President Diomaye has stated that we would like to have win-win partnership, and the win-win is very important. So that's why I think when they come in the day where we have got our first barrel, where we have started the production of oil and gas and focusing in energy, I think that this is a real voice that needs to be analyzed.
Before the arrival of these Chinese investors, Senegal has been attracted to the U.S. government, including France and other Western countries, in exploring the country's energy sector. Now that Senegal is welcoming these Chinese investors, what must Senegal consider in dealing with these investors?
Thank you very much for this question. The Senegalese production, when it talks about energy, the production was meant to start on 2023. Finally, we have a change of many situations, a new president. we was expecting with the President Macky Sall that our partnership be very developed with France and the other countries. But with this new government, they have a new paradigm. It's mean a win-win partnership. And as you said, Senegal is a country where there is a lot of opportunities, and those countries know that. And now we would like to say that with this new production, and this is not only oil, but we have the gas, and with two projects of Sangomar and the project of GTA, Grand Tortue Aluminium, I think that Senegal has opened a new era of partnership between these two countries. And about America, the U.S., you know, we have a lot of kind of partnership with the U.S. about others partnership, but economically, I think that the oil and energy in the energy sector, I think for this moment, it is a moment where everything starts. And I advise the new government.
Alhaji Amadou Sam is the country director of budget. Now, in the world of sports, match day 3 and 4 of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers were completed on Tuesday, 11 June 2024. These match days have provided some exciting and shocking results, including Nigeria's 2-1 defeat to Benin. Tuesday evening also reportedly marked exactly 14 years since Africa kicked off its first ever FIFA World Cup that was hosted in South Africa back in 2010. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, Morocco were the highest scorers of the evening after they put 6 past Congo Republic to extend their lead at the top of Group E, according to CAF official website. Burundi boosted their chances of a top spot contention after a 3-1 victory over Seychelles saw them move up to third in Group F. Gabon manager slammed 3-2 win over the Gambia to keep a close chase on group leaders Cote d'Ivoire. Cameroon could have further extended their lead at the top of Group D, but were held to a 1-1 draw by Angola in Luanda. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and David Vincent for the technical assistance. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.
West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.